Hello and welcome. Thanks for making some time to come over and take a quick look at OutSystems Platform, rapid application delivery platform for the enterprise. It's all about accelerating the delivery and change of these enterprise mobile and web applications, which as we go through this slide will become pretty evident as to why this is such a difficult problem. A lot of organizations start with a modest number of applications, 20 to 50. Many of our customers have significantly more applications than this. But even starting at this level, this is existing applications that are going to explode as you go multi-channel, because a web application, when you take it to, say, a smartphone device, is going to become 5 or 10 sub-applications. Then you multiply that times the number of platforms and form factors that you need to support, not just iOS and Android, but also straight browsers on laptops and desktops. Across the different form factors of desktop and tablet and phone, and then whatever else may be coming down the road from wearables and others. And we're not just creating toy UI applications, we're actually integrating these deeply with the existing data and process in my enterprise. We're from large enterprise systems down to small databases, access databases on the side. All of that information needs to be pulled together into these composite applications using technologies that are constantly changing and we are always in short supply of. People that understand currently HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript. Organizations, enterprises don't have benches full of these individuals that can go out and write these applications. And even if you can keep up with somebody doing this, if you think about what's just simply happening in the JavaScript world as far as the number of frameworks and how quickly those change, it becomes a very daunting problem, especially in the context of this overall equation. And then you multiply all of this times by the number of times that you have to update these applications. Users aren't expecting 1 or 2 changes a year, they're expecting 1 or 2 changes a month. And so taking a look at this through the lens of traditional development approaches, it quickly becomes obvious that you can't get there from where you are. But it doesn't have to be this hard if you have the right application platform that lets you leverage your existing skills, allowing you to easily build and effortlessly change these applications. Leveraging technologies such as responsive web design to make sure that these applications look correct across all devices, but also use, via hybrid technologies, use the rich and specific sensors and other on-device applications, et cetera, that can be on these different platforms. Abstraction brings stability. From an application platform perspective, this is all about making sure that we insulate, or that the right application platform insulates you from the technology churn and change that's happening all the time. Just taking JavaScript as an example, Angular going from 1.3 to 2.0 and not being backwards compatible, right? That's a pretty big deal unless you are operating at a level above that. That brings you a level of stability. And then simplified aggregation. Creating these composite applications out of these data silos that exist on premises and in the cloud, simplifying that is key and important to making these applications interesting and useful. So where OutSystems fits in this overall equation is, we start with what everybody else starts with. Your existing assets, your cloud services, your enterprise systems, your existing Java and .NET code or your REST APIs, your databases, et cetera. And then adding a layer of abstraction on top of that allows your developers to visually model and design the 4 different layers of these applications, from data through process, and this is human process, like in this case of approving an order in my order management system, logic. And this is what I would normally be trapped in front of a text editor typing a bunch of code in to do. Here, I'm dragging and dropping and integrating with Salesforce and SAP and creating complicated logic and conditionals and loops, as you can see here, that are actually easy to understand for whatever developer happens to be looking at them. And then pulling all of that together into an application that is engaging by putting a proper user interface on top of that, which is a keystone to getting great user experience, which is required for the adoptability of these applications. And if these applications aren't adopted, then we're all simply wasting our time. So once the developer is finished and wants to take a look at this application, they have the ability through a one-click publish function to create this application. And when OutSystems Platform creates this application, it creates it as a Java or a C# program, depending on what stack you've chosen, plus HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript, all industry standard, all running on standard stacks like IIS or JBoss or WebLogic, and creating an environment where if OutSystems becomes the vendor that you no longer want to do business with, you can walk away with your intellectual property, and you are left with applications that you can change, that you can maintain, that you can update and you can upgrade over time. When we go from development through test and into production, there's also the mechanism of making sure that not only the build was going to occur successfully, but also that the promotion from development, which may be on premises, to test, which may be in my private cloud, all the way through production, which may be in the OutSystems public cloud, that happens with the proper verification and the proper governance. So we ensure that the promotion will occur properly, and we ensure that only the authorized individuals that can move certain applications can do so from certain environments to another environment. And then we get these beautiful applications that are functional across all of these different devices out into production for use and deployed across all of these different platforms. And I've only created the application one time, but I'm able to leverage through clever uses of an application we call OutSystems Now, which is a native app that acts as both an enterprise app store as well as a bridge down to the native device function. We have that single application that's going out to all of these different platforms, but we're not done. We're not racing to some fictitious finish line. We're actually running laps, and we really need to not only get the application out there, but we also have to shorten the cycle time to getting the next change done. And in order to do that, we have to be able to capture feedback in the form of performance monitoring instrumentation that's automatically put into the application, as well as in-app feedback that our QA engineers can put into the app or our business users can put into the app simply by selecting a button inside of the application and saying right here and circle a spot on the page is where I want this graph, and this is what I want the graph to do. Balling up all of that information, sending it back into development, who is already armed with this very quick visual development environment to make that change and then quickly promote it all the way from dev to test to prod. And so with that, what I'd love to do is move us over to an actual demonstration of the product where you can see very specifically what I've already talked about here.
Hello. For the demonstration piece of this, I'm going to be showing you a hybrid application. Now you might be asking yourself, what is a hybrid application? Well, a hybrid application is an application that you download just as if you download any other application to your device. But pieces of it live on a web server behind the scenes. The purpose of the shell, the application that's actually installed, is to give you access to native device sensors such as GPS, notifications, location, calendars, pictures, etc. You'll get to see some of the benefits as we go through this. For now, I'm going to launch the OutSystems Now application, which is in the bottom right corner of my screen. When I launch it, I'm presented with the opportunity to log in and all the applications that I have access to. For today, we're going to go into field services, which is something I might use if I was a cable or TV installer to manage my appointments and work for the day. I go in, I'm presented with a nice screen view of my first 3 appointments, any missing inventory, etc. I'm going to choose my first appointment for the day. And this is where you're going to see the first native device sensor integration. We've got the customer address all at the top, and utilizing that as well as my current location, we've got an integration to Google Maps, and we've got the route calculated from where I am to where I need to go, including the estimated time that it's going to take me to get there. So I'm going to go ahead. I've already now arrived at the customer site. I'm starting the installation. I see products and features that I need to install. When I start my work, I'm going to install my telephone, and I'm going to choose to activate the barcode scanner so I can scan products as I'm using them. So I choose my scan product there, and I've got my phone scan. Now I've adjusted it out of my inventory, and then I go through and finish. When I finish, I mark that I'm done, and just like any other work order, I'm going to capture my signature, and I'm done. I can ask my customer for feedback. I can do that. Submit the feedback, and my work for the day has been, at least on that customer, has been completed. I can also see just a strict customer list or today's installation. Now this is all well and good, but applications can always be better. Collecting feedback from your users on how those application changes should be done is key. In this case, we have a mechanism called application feedback. So again, I'm the installer, I'm out here. I'm thinking it would be really good if I could let the customer know that I'm on the way without picking up the phone to call them. So I'm going to utilize the caption button down at the bottom center of the screen. Click it, and then I can mark on the screen, do what I need to do. I can type a message here, or even better, I can record something. Hey, it would be really good if we could have a button that would call the user and let them know that I'm on the way once I press it. Thanks. So I've recorded the button and I hit send. So now if I switch hats and I put on my developer hat, I can launch a view and any feedback that's been given. I get a bunch of really good information, and let's open this. I can see some feedback was submitted, who submitted it, when they submitted it, the OS version that they were using, the application, the screen size. I've got an exact screenshot of what they were looking at, including any markings on the screen, and more. I can play what was recorded. Hey, it would be really good if we could have a button that would call the user and let them know that I'm on the way once I press it. So now as a developer, this is invaluable for me to do my work quickly and give the customer exactly what they want without any problems. And let's show you how that's done. I'm now over in the development environment, and I want to give the technician a way to notify their customer that they're on the way. Well, what makes sense to me is let's put a button on the screen. So if I take the button and drag it over, and I'm going to put it here, but when I drop it, watch the green 1 at the top. So I put the button on the screen, and that green 1 is turned into a red X. Well, that green 1 was our one-click publish button, which was mentioned earlier, and I'll talk about again in just a few minutes. But right now, even if I wanted to, I couldn't deploy my application. Within the development environment, we're keeping guardrails around the developer, lending a helping hand, so I can't deploy code that would actually be broken. Now, the code that's out there is running just fine, but right now, this application would not run, and that's because I haven't given any code behind this button. So let's go ahead and make those changes. Let's call the button Notify Customer. And if I double click the button, it takes me to where I'm programming. So the first thing I need to do is get some data. So I'm getting a nice query, and I'm going to go in, I'm on the work order screen, so I know if I drag work order over, look, the system has automatically brought over users and contact and work order status for me. Even better, I'm getting to visually see and work with the data. Well, I know I don't really need the work order status, and I don't need user, and it's asking me to clean up some of these. So now I'm good, I have the work order, and I have this information. I don't see the phone number, that's because it's one of the hidden fields, so I can click this to see other information. So I've got the phone number, etc. That's great. So now I've got all the data that I would need to call the customer to let them know that I'm on the way. Well, one way I could do that is to integrate with a third-party component. There's one called Twilio that's out there, and we've got a connector in our Forge. Our Forge is an open source community. I can get to the Forge just by clicking this far left tab, and I have access to sample applications, connectors, everything that's out there, including this particular application. Well, right now I want to use a service called Twilio, and we've got a connector. I can click on it and install it in my environment. Well, I've already got it installed, so all I need to do is reference it to add some functionality. So I'm clicking the Add Remove References, and it looks at everything that's on my server. We really believe reuse amongst all your applications is a good thing, and we make it easy to do. And I'm going to choose the simple call method and add a reference to it in my application. Once I've done that, I can go over into the logic, find Twilio, go to connectors, and then I'm going to bring over the simple call. When I drop it, again, notice I've got the red X across the top saying I need to fill in some information. Over here, it's telling me exactly what I need to fill. So I need to select a to number. Well, I've got a variable that holds the customer phone number, and I need to give it a message. So let's give it a message. Your technician has been dispatched and is on the way. They should be there in about, since we already have the ETA on the screen, let's use that, minutes. Thank you. So that's done. So now I've given a button, done a query, done an integration with a third-party component to do some notification. The only other thing that might be good to show is if the technician had the need for a part and it wasn't at the current warehouse and they wanted to see where all the warehouses were, let's give them a way to see all of the warehouses. So I can do that really simply by going to my data, finding the tables, seeing this warehouse, and we've got accelerators that are built into the platform that let you do common tasks. Really common tasks is to display data. So if I take the warehouse, I'm going to just drag and drop it right here, and I'm going to drag it one more time, and you're seeing stars go across. These just created new screens for me, and this is a warehouse list screen that has the name and address and latitude and longitude and search, sort, pagination. Well, that's great, except I don't really need the latitude and longitude, so let's go ahead and remove those. Other than that, the screen looks fine. Even better, it looks like everything else in my application because I'm using a theme, and a theme is a combination of layouts and CSS and HTML, so everything looks cohesive. So that's great. I've got my new warehouse screen and the warehouse detail screen. That looks fine too. So let's go ahead and publish and put my application out there. Back to my one-click publish button. I click it, and down at the bottom, we're going to see all the steps that this is going through. So the first thing it does is stores a new version. We have built-in version control, which allows easy rollbacks to prior versions should you need it. We generate code. Underneath, your applications are all running on native.NET or native Java code. So you get all the development speed of a visual application, but the runtime speed of a manually built application with no extra interpreters in the middle. Then we have the database changes and it's deployed to IIS. And then let's flip back over and see what those changes look like. I'm back on my iPad and I launch my application again. Now notice I didn't have to go to the iTunes store and download a new application. I didn't need to go to the approval process and wait 2 weeks for my application to get out there. All I'm doing is launching my application. When I log in again, I can see I've got my field services application. I go into my field services application now, and let's start my next appointment. So I'm in my next appointment, And notice I've got that new button and it says Notify Customer. This wasn't there before. I'm going to go ahead and click Notify Customer. And it's calling my cell phone.
Your technician has been dispatched and is on the way. They should be there in about 27 minutes. Thank you.
Now remember, it got the ETA from the screen and the prior integration that's already there. Furthermore, if you remember, I added 2 new screens. We used to only have today's installations and customers. Now I have warehouses. When I go to warehouses, I have my list. I have my list of all my warehouses with searching and sorting and pagination all built in, and I can go to a specific warehouse and get more information about it, etc. So again, the changes were made, and in seconds they were immediately out there available to everybody with the application.
So we've just walked through a simple example to show the speed and power of OutSystems platform, not only for application creation, but also change. It's all about delivering enterprise mobile and web applications extraordinarily fast, setting you up to develop once for all devices, powerfully integrating to all existing systems, and rapidly delivering these applications and effortlessly changing them over time. We thank you very much for your time and attention. Have a fantastic day, and please come visit us at OutSystems.com for more information. Thanks.